Hello, I'm Greg Wilton, Dean of Level College, and I want to welcome you to this mentoring class. You are watching this video either because you are teaching for us or because you are a student in one of our classes, or you might happen to be a mentor for one of our classes. If you are a mentor and you are watching this right now, I just want to say thank you on behalf of NOBTS and Level College for the way in which you are going to invest in these students' lives. It is incredibly important that you get to do this. We truly believe we want to prepare servants to walk with Christ, proclaim His truth, and fulfill His mission. And you're going to be very vital to this as you engage with our students and you help them to think through some of the content related to some of our classes and to really have it fleshed out, practically speaking, as you engage through different churches and through different ministries, whether it's here in the United States or even to the very ends of the earth. So mentors, thank you so much for participating with us in this experience. I want to talk to you real briefly about some mentor expectations, because when we use that word mentor, for Level College, we are actually talking about a delivery format with regard to our classes. So you can come to Level College and you can take a class in person. There are other ways you can take classes. You can take like a hybrid where you come here for a little bit of time, or an intensive. You can take online classes that are done strictly online. This type of a style of class, a mentoring class, is a class in which 3 people are involved. Let me show you this on the next screen. Every mentoring class has a professor, has students, and has a mentor. So for example, I am teaching a class, Introduction to Evangelism, and I am the professor for that class, as there are several students who are signing up for that class, and every student is responsible to find a mentor that they meet with on a weekly basis to discuss their walk with Christ, to discuss ministry in general, ministry experiences, and most importantly, to discuss all of the content and the activity related to that specific class. So what I want to do real quickly is I want to just talk to you briefly about the expectations for each person in this relationships that happen within a mentoring class. So let's go ahead and talk first about the professor. What are the expectations of a professor for a mentoring class? Let's take a look at these bullet points here. First of all, of course, a professor is supposed to provide a detailed syllabus and an explanation of what a mentoring class is. It's different to an in-person class, and it's different to an online class. Like I've been telling you already, there is this dynamic in which there is a professor, a student, and a mentor. That's the added third layer. You also, a professor has to provide a mentor agreement form for students to get signed by their mentor. You'll find that in the Canvas shell of every class. Thirdly, a professor is to encourage students to find a mentor as soon as possible at the beginning of the semester. This is really important. Professors are not responsible for finding students a mentor. That is the student's responsibility. This is important because the students need to really try and figure out what are the pre-existing relationships and ministry connections that they already have, so they can truly benefit from this class through existing relationships. In some cases, that might be a little bit difficult to find, and there will be opportunities where maybe professors can make suggestions, but it is solely the student's initial responsibility to find a mentor for themselves. The professors also needing to provide weekly announcements and lectures for the class. You'll see it unit by unit. Most semesters have 14 units, and a professor is going to provide announcements via Canvas, and also is going to provide Lectures. Sometimes they are short lectures, but these lectures are the basis for the student meeting with the mentor sometime within that week. As I move my picture up here, just so we can see everything else, a professor also provides course content and assignments related to the class via Canvas and provides communication and availability to the students. See, the students are the ones that are primarily responsible for communication with the mentor. The professor's primary responsibility is the way in which they communicate with the students related to the class. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide, because we want to take a look at the expectations for a student in a mentoring class. Of course, in every given class, a student needs to thoroughly read the syllabus and understand the requirements and expectations of a mentoring class. By and large, they're going to feel the same, but they will also be slightly different mentoring class by mentoring class. So it's important that you read thoroughly the syllabus. A student is also required to find a mentor, to turn in the completed mentor agreement form, and then also the student is responsible to schedule weekly meetings with their mentor. Once that gets up and running, the student then is responsible to watch the unit lecture every week. And when you watch the unit lecture that you will find on Canvas every week, you're going to develop talking points and questions prior to meeting with your mentor. So in other words, you watch the lecture, you take notes, you think of questions and talking points based off the lecture that you just watched, so that you come ready then to meet with your mentor, to have questions to discuss, have talking points to discuss. The student is also responsible to have 1 hour weekly meetings with their mentor, and the student is responsible to take the initiative to maintain that weekly rhythm. You should never be putting the assumption upon the mentor to remember the meetings that you have on a weekly basis. It's the student's responsibility to carry that burden. In addition to having these 1 hour meetings, you must also, as students, have 2 hours of ministry per week. So in the case of an evangelism mentoring class, there needs to be a 1 hour meeting that you have with your mentor, in addition to 2 hours of evangelism on a weekly basis. Because in essence, it's a 3 credit hour class. That in essence means there needs to be activity of at least 3 hours every single week for it to be a 3 hour credited class. All right, as you see the second to last bullet point, it's important also that after you have watched the lecture, after you have met with your mentor, and also done some ministry out in your churches and your communities, that you fill out the weekly mentoring report after meeting with your mentor. And then of course, there are going to be other assignments related to the class that you will need to complete as well. Finally, we want to just talk real quickly about the expectations for the mentor in a mentoring class. We hope that with regard to the dynamics that are these relationships I'm talking about, professor, student, and mentor, that the mentor is heavily involved, but we know full well the mentors have so many things going on in their lives, and there needs to be minimal expectations for the mentor in comparison to the student and the professor. So you see bullet point number 1, agree to meet with the student on a weekly basis. You need to sign the mentor agreement form and return it to the student as soon as possible. It's a very simple form. You need to, as a mentor, provide encouragement, prayer, inspiration, and insight for the student regarding the content and the assignments of the class. So here's a really good guideline I recommend for mentors as you go through this semester with your student. Mentors should ask the students the following questions every week. How's your walk with Christ? Tell me about the class lecture. What questions do you have for me from your class this week? Tell me about your ministry experiences that you've had this week. And how can I pray for you? You see, as I share with you on this last bullet point here, it's really not the mentor's responsibility at all to teach the content of the class. You're encouraged actually to potentially go and do ministry alongside the students, but that's not required either. Instead, as I move my picture here, the mentor's primary responsibility is to engage the student as the student engages the content of the class and the ministry experiences associated with the class. This, in a nutshell, is the expectations of a mentoring class. I hope that this has been helpful, and as always, reach out to the instructor of the class should you have any need for further assistance with regard to how to make a mentoring class as successful as possible. Thanks so much.